Sarah sat alone in her bedroom, the dim glow of the lamp casting long, fragile shadows across the walls. The house was quiet except for the soft hum of the ceiling fan and the distant barking of a dog outside. On her nightstand lay a box she hadn't opened in years, a box filled with trinkets, letters, and fragments of a childhood she had locked away after her father's death. Inside the box, beneath faded birthday cards and dusty Polaroids, she found it, her old phone. The device was scratched, the screen cracked with spiderweb-like lines spreading across it, but somehow it still felt heavier than it should, as though it carried memories far more significant than its worn plastic frame. She hadn't touched that phone since her father had passed away 3 years ago. Her first instinct was to push it back into the box, to bury it under layers of the past. But curiosity pricked at her, urging her to keep it out. She ran her thumb over the cracked glass, recalling how often she had held it late at night, waiting for her father's texts whenever he worked late shifts at the factory. After staring at it for what felt like minutes, Sarah plugged in the charger she barely used anymore. To her surprise, the screen flickered to life, dim and sluggish but alive. A wave of nostalgia rushed over her, icons from old apps she hadn't touched in years, her wallpaper still a blurry picture of her and her father at the amusement park. He had his arm around her, smiling wide, while she had ice cream smeared across her cheek. Her chest tightened. She hadn't allowed herself to look at his face for too long since the funeral. Every time she did, the grief welled up like a storm she couldn't control. Just as she was about to lock the phone and put it aside, it vibrated in her hand. Her heart skipped. The cracked screen lit up, and for a second she thought it was a glitch. But then she saw it, an incoming call. The name displayed on the fractured screen made her stomach twist, Dad. Sarah froze. Her breath caught in her throat, and her trembling fingers almost dropped the phone. She knew this wasn't possible. Her father's number had been deactivated years ago. She had even been there when her mother canceled the service. Her rational mind screamed that it had to be a malfunction, some strange remnant of old data surfacing from the broken device. Yet the ringtone chimed again, sharp and insistent, echoing in the stillness of her room. Her heart pounded. Against every bit of logic, her thumb slid across the screen, answering the call. "Hello," she whispered, her voice unsteady, almost fearful. For a moment there was nothing, just static, like the faint hiss of an old radio. Her pulse quickened. She was about to hang up when she heard it. "Sarah." Her entire body went cold. The voice was familiar, too familiar. It was deep, gentle, carrying the same warmth it always had. It was her father's voice. Her legs weakened, and she sank onto the bed, clutching the phone to her ear. "Dad." The word cracked out of her throat like she hadn't spoken it in years. The line crackled again, and then came the voice once more, softer as though from far away. "Don't be afraid, princess." Tears pooled in her eyes. She remembered that phrase vividly. He had always called her princess when she was little, when he would tuck her into bed after long days. She had not heard that word since before the accident. This isn't real," she whispered to herself, shaking her head, though her heart wanted desperately to believe it. "It's me," the voice said again, calm, familiar, loving. Her chest tightened painfully and the tears slipped down her cheeks. "But you're gone, you're dead." There was a pause. A soft breath came through the speaker, as though whoever was on the other end could feel her anguish. "I know it's hard, but I needed to reach you. You're not alone, Sarah. You've never been alone." Her hand shook as she pressed the phone closer to her ear. The memories she had fought so hard to bury surged forward. Her father teaching her to ride a bike, his laughter when she fell into the bushes, the way he sang off-key in the kitchen when cooking Sunday breakfast. And then, the crushing memory of the car crash, the call that shattered her family forever. Her logical mind screamed at her that none of this could be happening, that she was hallucinating or dreaming. And yet, deep inside, something told her to keep listening. Her breathing was uneven. "Why now?" she whispered. "Why after all this time?" Static filled the line again, but beneath it she could still make out his voice. Because you needed me. Because you're drifting away from yourself. Sarah swallowed hard. She knew exactly what he meant. Since his death, she had pulled away from her dreams, from friends, even from her mother. She had dropped out of college, lost her motivation, and filled her days with empty routines, avoiding anything that reminded her of him. She had been living like a ghost, much like the man whose voice she now heard. "I miss you so much," she cried into the phone, gripping it with both hands as though it could anchor him to her. "Every single day, I don't know how to move on without you." There was a pause, then the faint echo of his chuckle, the same low, comforting laugh she used to hear when she was upset. "You're stronger than you think, Princess. You always have been. You have to live for both of us." Her tears fell freely now. She wanted to ask so many questions, wanted to hold onto the sound of his voice forever. But before she could speak again, the line crackled violently. The voice began to fade. "Wait, don't go, please," she begged, her voice breaking. The static grew louder, drowning out everything. And then, just before the call dropped, she heard one final whisper. "Look in the box, you'll find what you need." The call ended. Silence filled the room again, heavy and suffocating. The phone screen went black, as if it had never lit up at all. Sarah stared at it, her heart still racing, her mind spinning between disbelief and hope. Her hands, still trembling, reached for the old wooden box on the nightstand, the same box where she had found the phone. Inside, beneath the photos and letters, something caught her eye. A small envelope she hadn't noticed before, yellowed with time and sealed with her father's handwriting scrawled across the front. Her breath hitched as she traced the familiar script. It read simply, "For Sarah." Sarah's fingers trembled as they brushed against the aged envelope, the paper fragile and yellowing with time. She had gone through that box dozens of times over the years, at least she thought she had, yet she had never seen this. It was as though it had appeared only now, summoned by her father's mysterious call. Her throat tightened. The words on the front, written in his familiar scrawl, seemed alive. For Sarah. Simple, but it was enough to make her chest ache. She slid her finger under the seal, her movements slow, almost hesitant, as though opening it too quickly would shatter the fragile thread of connection she had just felt. Inside was a folded sheet of lined paper, creased and faintly smudged with ink. She unfolded it carefully, and as her eyes scanned the page, her tears blurred the words. "My dear Sarah, if you are reading this, it means I didn't get the chance to tell you everything I wanted to. Life is fragile, and though I hope to be with you for many more years, I needed to leave these words behind. I want you to know 3 things above all. You are stronger than you believe, you are never alone, and my love for you is eternal." Sarah pressed the paper to her chest, sobbing quietly. Her father's voice echoed in her head, matching the words on the page. It was as though he had written the letter just yesterday, knowing she would one day stumble upon it. Her eyes darted back to the letter, desperate to read more. "There will be times when the world feels too heavy, when grief or fear makes you doubt yourself. In those moments, I want you to pause and remember the sound of my laugh, the way we rode bikes together, or the silly songs we sang in the car. Those memories are not gone. They live in you. Carry them with you like light. And Princess, promise me something. Don't let grief stop you from living your dreams. You once told me you wanted to be a writer, to share stories with the world. That dream is still inside you. Don't bury it with me. Honor me by becoming everything I always believed you could be." Her lips quivered as she read. She had abandoned writing long ago. She hadn't touched a notebook or typed a story since his funeral. Every time she tried, the words felt hollow, empty. But now, reading his encouragement written in his hand, she felt the old spark flicker faintly in her chest. The letter continued. "If you ever doubt yourself, look for the second envelope. I hid it where we kept our secret things when you were little. You'll know where to look. Inside, you'll find something to guide you. And one more thing, never forget how deeply you are loved. Even when you cannot hear my voice, I am with you, always. Love, Dad. By the time she finished reading, Sarah's tears had soaked the edges of the paper. She held it close, inhaling the faint scent of old ink and time, as if she could breathe in the essence of her father through it. But then her heart skipped at the mention of the second envelope, where we kept our secret things. The phrase stirred a memory, faint at first, then clear as glass. When she was about 7, her father had built a small wooden treehouse in the backyard. It wasn't fancy, just a few boards nailed together, a ladder that creaked with every step. But to Sarah, it had been a castle. She remembered the little hiding spot under the floorboard, where they used to stash candy bars and handwritten notes to each other, joking that it was their treasure chest. Her pulse quickened. Could it still be there? Without thinking twice, she grabbed a flashlight from her drawer, threw on a sweater, and rushed outside. The night was quiet, the air crisp, carrying the scent of grass and damp earth. The treehouse still stood, though weathered and worn, its paint peeling and its ladder weaker than she remembered. Climbing up, every step creaked under her weight. The flashlight beam swept across the dusty interior, illuminating cobwebs in the corners. It had been years since she last set foot there. Her hands shook as she knelt in the corner where the loose board had been. She pried it open, the wood resisting at first, then giving way with a soft crack. Beneath it was a small tin box, rusty but intact. Her breath caught as she pulled it out, her heart racing faster than it ever had before. Inside, nestled among old wrappers and faded notes, was a sealed envelope. On it, in her father's handwriting, were the words, "For the day you need me most." Her hands shook as she tore it open. Another letter, shorter this time but heavier in meaning. Sarah, if you found this, it means you listened. I knew you would. I left something for you inside this box, something to remind you of your strength. It isn't much, but it carries my heart with it. Sarah dug deeper into the box and pulled out a small leather-bound journal. Its cover was worn, but inside, the pages were filled with her father's handwriting. Notes, thoughts, sketches of ideas, even little poems he had scribbled during lunch breaks. On the first page he had written, "For Sarah, so that when you're ready, you'll keep writing your own pages." Her tears spilled freely again. It wasn't just a gift, it was an invitation, a bridge between the life she had lost and the future she had abandoned. For the first time in years, the crushing weight of grief loosened slightly. She felt not just sadness, but also possibility. Her father hadn't left her with silence. He had left her with words, with hope, with a reminder that his presence was still alive in every page, every letter. Sitting in the treehouse, surrounded by the echoes of her childhood, Sarah opened the journal and began to write. At first, the words were shaky, her hand trembling. She wrote about the call, the letters, the overwhelming ache of missing him. And then slowly the words began to flow, not just about grief, but about love, memory, and the unseen threads that bind the living to those they've lost. Hours passed without her noticing. By the time she stopped, the journal had pages filled with her handwriting. For the first time since the funeral, she felt a strange peace, fragile but real. As dawn crept over the horizon, painting the sky with soft hues of pink and gold, Sarah closed the journal and held it close. The phone call still haunted her, had it been real, a glitch, a dream. But the letters, the journal, the hidden box, those were real, and in them her father's voice would never fade. She climbed down from the treehouse, her body tired but her spirit lighter than it had been in years. For once, she wasn't afraid of the silence. She carried with her his words, his love, and the quiet certainty that she wasn't as lost as she thought. And though the broken phone sat silent on her nightstand, she no longer needed it to hear him. His voice was alive in her heart, guiding her toward the life he had always wanted her to live.